My guest today has a rather unusual combination of talents and quite a career in education. He's a counselor and used to be a basketball coach. Now he's a sports referee and also, what I understand, works at Delta part time. I don't know if you can get any more unusual than that, Terry. Uh, I've always learned, well, I learned a long time ago to respect his quiet demeanor. And just because he doesn't make a lot of noise does not mean he's not effective. And welcome, Terry. And I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you, Dr. Arnold. I really appreciate you having me.
Coach, what's your hometown?
Uh, my hometown, I guess I'm what you call a 706-334 baby. My mother is from South Columbus and my father is from South Phoenix City. So
Oh, okay. So just across the river then.
correct.
Well, good. Now, where did you go to elementary school, Coach?
So I went to private school. I went to this it's called Mother Mary Mission in Phoenix City, Alabama.
Yeah,
I went there from kindergarten to the eighth grade. It's probably the best money that my mother ever spent on me. Best
that's
thing
great.
ever happened to me.
That's great. It's funny uh, how many kids will say that private school and church school, because they don't have all the testing that public schools do, kids get a much more appropriate and in-depth education.
Right. I think in the fourth grade, my mother moved us to Detroit, and my cousins in Detroit, they thought I was gonna be behind when I went to school there. Because I was coming from the South and everything. And
Yeah.
when I got in class, they were like ready to skip me a grade. So
That's a great story. Now,
right.
where'd you go to middle school, Coach?
Same thing, it was junior high then, of course, but Mother Mary Mission went from kindergarten to the eighth grade. And I left the
That,
eighth grade, and of course, I went to Carver High School.
that's right. And I have seen films of you playing basketball at Carver.
Right,
And
correct.
your
And
life centered around basketball, from what I can tell.
it absolutely is. It's just, like I said, that's another one of the greatest things that happened for me in my life.
And
Just
did you
basketball.
ever have coaches try to talk you into playing football too?
I did. I played football all the way until I got to high school, and I was actually on my way to go to a freshman football practice, and my basketball coach came out the building and said, where you going? I said I was getting ready to go and try out for football. He said, well, I planned on playing you on the varsity this year. And once he told me that was the end of my football career. I was in love with basketball. So
That's great. And
yeah.
after high school, Coach, where did you go to college?
So I signed with Bethune-Cookman College in Daytona Beach, Florida, and I played there my freshman year. I left there and went to a school called Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College in Tifton, Georgia.
ABAC.
And then, right, ABAC, and I left there and I finished up at Talladega College in Alabama,
Oh,
Talladega,
wow.
Alabama.
So you got quite a well-rounded education then, didn't you?
Oh yes, oh
It-
yes. I
So
also did a internship one summer at the University of North Texas.
did
So,
you?
hmm
Well, I
I
know
did.
North Texas for their jazz program.
Okay. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
nice school,
yeah,
right near Dallas.
yep, that's right. Now, who are the people that encouraged you to go into education?
So I guess once I finished college, I came home for a couple of years and I worked at Muskogee County DFACS. And I was just feeling like, hey, it's not my calling, it's paying my bills or whatever, but it's just, I wanted to do something and work with kids. I had been coaching my kids. My first time coaching was in between me going from ABAC to Talladega. I coached my brother's um, middle school team. Um, and so, I kind of had that itch for coaching. And then I started coaching my son in football and basketball. And then I called my high school coach, George Williams, and was telling him I was interested in getting into coaching, but I didn't have any type of, my major in college was sociology, so I had to find a connection to get into education, and just so happened that I kind of a lot of my friends told me that I was a good listener and everything, and I kind of went in the counseling direction. So,
That's great. That's a great story. Now, when what was your first teaching position, Coach?
my first teaching position was at Stewart County Elementary School in Lumpkin, Georgia, and I was their first elementary school counselor.
That's
And
great.
it was there that I met a kid named Jarvis Jones, who went on to play for the University of Georgia and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he's now the head coach at Carver High School. But I was kind of connected him to get to Columbus and play um, football for a guy named Tony Adams.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, good.
So he,
How long were you at Stewart County?
I was just there for a year, and then I came to Muskogee County after that year,
Which
and
school?
so I went to Rothschild. I was there for a year, and then I did 3 years at Eddie Middle School, and then a guy named Dr. Arnold gave me my first opportunity in high school at Shaw High School.
I I remember that very well. I know when you had to duck to walk through my door, I thought, now there's a basketball guy right there. But now, what when you first started teaching, Coach, what were your thoughts when you entered that first year of teaching, and what were the expectations, and how did you handle those expectations?
Well, I did my graduate work at Columbus State, and I thought they did a very good job of preparing me for the technical part of the job, the academic side. But of course, once you get into the school building, it's just so many different moving parts that you couldn't possibly be prepared for. So I thought that I was well prepared, but in the end, I was just like you said, I was drowning trying to figure everything out. And, in elementary school, you're by yourself as a counselor. In high school, you get a little help. You can, kind of lean on other people to help you out a little bit. But
Yeah,
yeah, I was kind of on my own that first year.
yeah, it does sort of feel like drowning, doesn't
Yeah, it does. It's
it?
that's the best analogy I can come up with.
Well, I had a friend of mine tell me, we were talking about our first years of teaching, and how much we were not prepared for what we were actually facing, and how little it had to do with what we actually studied in college.
Right.
He told me that after his first month in the classroom, he was ready to drive back to our college and demand his money back.
Yeah. I mean, like the theories and everything are great, but it's just a whole different ball game once you get in, get into the schools and
And
you're
you got a
dealing
room full
with
of kids and have to come up with stuff they're going to be
right.
interested in.
You got a room full of kids, you got parents as a counselor, you got parents, you got teachers you got to deal with. None of that stuff is in the curriculum. So
No, it's not. No, it's
yeah.
not. What do you think was the hardest part of counseling, Terry? Was it kids? Was it teachers? Was it administration? Or was it parents?
If I had to put a finger on it, 99.9% of the time, it's probably going to be the parents
Yeah,
or lack thereof.
yeah, yeah. Now, that's an important point right there. And a lot of times I can remember wishing that it had been easier to get in touch. It was the parents I didn't need to get in touch with that I saw every day.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're always there.
Did you have a teacher that sort of took you aside and told you, you might want to try this, or instead of doing what you're doing, you might want to try something else? Sort of a mentor teacher?
Uh, well, I guess as a counselor, um, there were several counselors. Traquila Nelson, who is over the counselors in Muskogee County. We all did our programs together, our grad programs together. So, of course, I could always call on to her, and some of the people that I work with. That's Shaw Dan Anders. He was there in our program with us. And so going to Columbus State, and of course being from Columbus, I could pretty much call on anybody when I needed something. So
Yeah, Dan Anders was always one of those quiet kind of guys that you never really knew how much he knew until he started talking in that quiet way.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, Dan
So,
was Dan could be feisty though. He,
oh
he had
yeah,
he had a little
absolutely.
fire side to him. Yeah.
So, can you come up with three ways, Terry, that your philosophy about education has changed since you first started teaching?
Right. And like I said, when I started, I don't even know if I even had a philosophy, doc. But just over the years, I would say my first thing would be probably, I want to try to treat every kid as though I wanted someone to treat mine, to do it, do for mine. That was the first thing. Um, the second thing is to, I want to utilize all my available resources. And of course, it takes a while before you even get a chance to figure out what all those are.
That's right.
There's a lot of resources out there that it just takes you a while just to learn what those are. And finally, like I said, we would want to make sure we get the parents involved if that's if it's possible, you can get them involved. But
Yeah.
if not, sometimes you kind of have to step in the role as best you can. So I guess
It's
that would be my third.
it's amazing to me, excuse me, how unprepared some parents seem to be to raise children.
Yeah,
You know,
well,
I
there's not a textbook, so if it is, I missed out on that manual.
well, I think a lot of us did, Coach. And a friend of mine told me one time. He said you have to take a test to have a driver's license, but anybody can have a kid.
Right.
Well, it
Yeah.
seems something backwards about that. I'm not sure what, but
Right. Yeah.
so you're still counseling now, but you're not coaching. Is that correct?
I am. This is my first year not coaching, in probably over 25 years. Um, so I just decided to, if my body will let me, because I've done football without any injuries, but I did probably 50 games of football with no issues, and I did one quarter of basketball and pulled a couple of muscles. So if my body will let me, I'll officiate basketball this season.
Now, what's the biggest difference between refereeing and coaching?
Uh, I think I have an advantage being a referee, just being a part of being a part of the game and having coached football and basketball. I think I have a pretty good feel for the game, but I don't think it's, just being a part of the team. There's a team of officials. So it's kind of similar, just, still working around kids, just not directly, indirectly more so than directly, but yeah.
I've always heard that the best officials are the ones that never that you never hear from.
Right. Yeah, the best officials are hard of hearing too. You can't have rabbit ears and be an official.
Oh goodness, no! You'd throw everybody in the arena out, wouldn't you?
Right. You got to have thick skin, but that had changed. The fans used to come to the game and get on the referees, and they started to where they were getting on the coaches even more than the referees. So I'm kind of used to it, I guess.
And like I mentioned to you before, I think the pay is a good bit better than what you get for coaching anyway, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Coaching is just a small supplement, and that goes on for them. I think they said if you add it up, you get pennies, uh, maybe a quarter or something a day.
Maybe, maybe
Right,
per hour.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most
So,
people don't understand how little coaches are actually paid.
right. So I show up and do a boys and girls game and uh, probably make 10 times what I make as a coach.
And it's probably not nearly as stressful, is it?
Yeah, just for 3 hours,
Yeah.
just for 3 or 4 hours. And you got
And
to be
when
with the kids coaching all day, every day for, all year,
and then
even
get
out of
back
season.
home after the game.
Yeah. So, right. You gotta love it. You coaches don't do it for money for sure. So,
Well, that's exactly right. Now, coach, guidance counselors come up against almost every kind of problem that you can imagine when they talk to kids. You see kids that don't have a stable home life, kids that don't get enough to eat, kids that have physical issues and mental issues and uh, legal challenges and drugs and you name it. And what have you found to be the most difficult problems to solve when you're dealing with students?
well, the issues haven't changed. You still have kids that, they have problems coping with adversity. You still, I see a lot more mental health issues, being identified. I'm not sure if that's new, but it's just that it's, kind of being identified more, I guess. Um, one of the new, well, it's not even new, but of course, the cell phone is probably still one of the biggest issues. Now you got vaping, um, you know, uh, cell phones, vaping. Then you got cyberbullying,
Yeah.
which is probably more due to the cell phone. So but the issue is still, you still have kids that are struggling academically, and then you have those that have a lot of pressure on them about excelling academically. And that's and you know, so
Well, now you mentioned cell phones, Coach. What is your school's policy on cell phones?
the same as pretty much everywhere. You're not supposed to have them out and without the teacher's permission. It really supposed to be put up until after school. But that's a hard one, and I hear some schools make you lock the phones up. My school doesn't do that, but it's just one of those things. I kind of wish we did though. Wish we would make them lock the phones up. That would eliminate. Hello.
Coach, my
Okay.
internet is being squirrely. I
Okay.
think we're okay now,
Okay.
but I I agree with you 100% about phones. I think they're a bigger distraction than we ever imagined that they would be, even 10 years ago. And
Right,
it's not just students, it's parents and it's teachers and just about
right,
everybody else you can think of.
right.
I
You would not believe some of the things that parents would text their kids during the school day. It's just
Yes, I would.
unbelievable. I'm just,
Yes, I
yeah,
would. I
right.
I I once had a superintendent of education come into my office and wanted to talk about, school stuff, but she wouldn't get off her phone long enough to talk to me. And
Mm,
finally, I told her, I got things I got to do in the building. I'm sorry, but when you finish your phone stuff, you can find me out here where the kids are.
right. Yeah, yeah. It's a distraction for everybody.
I,
Yes,
I and I'm just not sure it's all good. Well, I'm convinced it's not all good,
right,
but every generation has its own distractions,
right. Yeah, this
and
is.
I
I
guess
don't know. It seems like it's a lot more now, though.
I
It's
think you're right, and
yeah,
I don't know that there is a great solution for it. The only thing I can come up with is somebody smarter than me needs to figure out how to make use of the enormous technological uh, power that these kids have in their hands, other than
right,
just social media and watching cat videos.
right.
But
Of course, I didn't even mention the AI. How that is, that's made a huge impact on education, and they don't even really have to write papers or anything anymore. Um, Math problems, they all, you can solve math problems. So it's uh, it's very challenging.
well, I did hear an English teacher say, I had asked her how she handled these papers that were obviously composed by AI, and she said it's pretty easy to tell if they don't talk like their paper sounds, then somebody else wrote it or AI wrote it.
Right. Yeah.
But
I
I'm not
imagine.
sure that's a help when you're trying to grade it.
Right. Yeah.
Now, uh, as a counselor, coach, when do you decide to involve parents in the problems that kids bring to you?
Well, like I said, I feel like if the parent is an option, we need to get them involved right away. Because a lot of times that helps the teachers, with that leverage uh, of getting them to, stay focused and everything. So I always have felt like if that's an option, but lots of times, like I said, that's not an option, and sometimes we as teachers and counselors kind of have to get in that role a little bit as a parent. So
Well, yeah, you're right about that, and that's where the term in loco parentis comes from. We are in the place of parents, and a lot of times
right,
you're right. That happens far too often.
right, most definitely, it's just kids have so many different issues that they have to deal with, and it's just like I said, it just seems like it's more now, more so now than in the past.
Well, I think I have part of a reason anyway about why that is. It seems like a lot of parents want to jump in and solve these problems for their kids first thing. And
Hmm.
when we had a problem with another kid in the neighborhood, my mother didn't want to hear it. And
Yeah,
it happened every day anyway. But she would leave it to us to deal with it without making it worse, which was her key guideline. Whatever you do, don't make the situation worse. And kids don't learn how to do that at an early age anymore because parents step in and do it for them.
Right.
and they don't learn how to deal with how to create solutions where there don't seem to be any.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of things, like you said, we want to make it easier for our kids, but sometimes, that's not really helpful.
No,
So,
it's not. You can make it
yeah,
too easy, can't you?
right. Or try to anyway, but
Well,
it don't.
it's like coaching. If you could wave your magic wand and make this little 5'6" guy 6'2",
Right.
then that would solve a lot of basketball problems, wouldn't
Yeah, yeah. We need more magic wands for sure.
it? But well, now, Coach, you also told me that you've been working for Delta Airlines. Now, tell me about that.
I have. When I started out, probably about 10 years ago, just, it kind of aligned with my schedule a lot because they hired a lot of educators because the summer is their peak season. And, the educators are off on the summer. So that kind of aligned with my schedule. And I've been doing that for the past 10 years. What I do is I'm a ramp worker and I deliver the bags. I drive and pick up the bags off the planes and take them to the next gate. So
That's,
yeah.
now, how did you find that job?
My wife was actually working for the credit union for Delta, and then she got word that they like to hire a lot of teachers, and I put in an application and I got it, and because I was commuting for 2 months out the year uh, to Atlanta to work at Delta, and I'm actually getting ready to retire. I think I worked my last summer this past summer, and in May when I get my anniversary date, I'll be eligible to retire from Delta. So,
That's great.
uh, yeah,
Well, it's a shame that educators have to pick up a second job in order to make ends meet.
oh yeah, and a
But,
third.
well, that's right too. Yeah. Now,
Right.
one of the reasons that educators have to do that is because of their children. Now, tell me about your kids.
Oh wow. So I have 5 kids. Four of my kids graduated from Shaw High School. And my baby girl, she was a volleyball star, and she wanted to go to Columbus High School and play for the legend Donna Fleming.
Oh
And
yeah.
so she was able to go and do that. So, but yeah, my kids are, they are 35 are my two oldest, and my baby girl, like I said, she's 24. I have 4 grandkids, one that's in the 6th grade, and one that's in the 1st grade, and two that'll be turning 3 in January.
Goodness gracious. So you're back in the school business
Oh
again.
yeah, all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they boys? Are your grandkids boys or girls?
I've got one boy and 3 girls.
Oh my goodness, you're gonna be broke for the rest of your life.
Right. Yeah, that's why I got to have so many jobs.
That's right. Well,
So,
now, what does your oldest child do?
well, Kyrie and Tito, they both Kyrie played basketball and
I
Tito played
forgot
football.
about it. Yeah, that's
They
right.
played football and basketball, and Kyrie works for like a distributor. I think it's like a liquor distributor here in Atlanta. And Tito is still actually in Columbus. He's coaching at Carver.
Is he really?
He is.
That's
Right.
great. That
Yeah.
is great.
So,
And who is the new principal at Carver?
his name is Day, and I think he is a pastor up in Harris County somewhere.
You
I
almost
think
have to be a pastor to be a principal anymore, don't
right. Yeah. Yeah.
you?
Especially coming after Chris Lindsay.
That's exactly right. I went and saw Chris a couple of weeks ago. He seems to be enjoying himself over there.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's
of
good.
course.
Listen.
Well,
Chris is like a brother to me.
oh yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, so what do you think you want to be when you grow up, Terry?
Oh wow. Um, well, sometimes I think about trying to get into college coaching. Um, I'm actually enrolled to start taking some classes for construction. And
Really?
then, like I said, I'm just getting into the officiating business. So um, that's pretty much what I'm working on right now.
That sounds like a full-time load to me.
Right.
And then you got school every day.
Right. And
Now,
like I said, I get a chance to retire from Georgia uh, in May. So I'm not sure, if I will continue to, you know, do the counseling and, go to another state or what. But
well, it's nice to have opportunities and options, isn't it?
absolutely.
Yeah. Now,
Absolutely.
what advice do you have for students that think they might want to go into teaching or coaching or counseling?
Oh, I mean, it can be very rewarding. You just got to make sure it's what you want to do. It can be very rewarding um, when the students come back. They come back years later and tell you how you impacted them. But then like you say, you have a lot of days where um, you hear some things that you wish you hadn't heard, or um, but yeah, it can be very rewarding work, and if you a caring person and care about kids, and like I say, you'll enjoy it. It
Now,
really will.
you probably get a lot of messages from former students and former players too, don't you?
I do. I do. I actually, am from Shaw. Um, I got guys that came that played for us. They're lawyers and engineers, and I even got one guy. He's getting ready to be a school counselor and basketball coach.
Really?
Right. Yeah.
That's
So you got.
great. I
Mhm.
had I heard from a kid, uh, Calvin Johnson. You remember Calvin?
Calvin Johnson. I don't know if I
You
remember that.
you would know him if you saw him, but he sent me a
Okay.
note and said this had been on his mind for a lot of years, and he felt like he had to tell me. But one day he got suspended for something. I forget what it was. And I told him I was going to have to talk to his mama before he could come back. Well, I called and I didn't know, but it was Calvin on the other end of the phone impersonating his mama, agreeing with
Right.
everything I said and how she was going to whip his behind if he did it again. And
Right.
he admitted, he said he kept that secret for about 8 or 9 years and just he had to tell me about it.
But believe me or not, that sounds like something that I did to my school counselor when I was in high school.
Please don't tell my mama.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
well, Calvin, Terry, I enjoyed talking to you today. I
Always.
appreciate you volunteering to do this, and let me know what you decide about retiring or not retiring. I'd like to keep up with you one way or the other.
Well, I will. I always use you for a reference when I'm trying to move on somewhere. But Doc, I can't get off of here without thanking you again for giving me the opportunity to be a high school counselor and basketball coach. Like, I forever be in your gratitude. I really appreciate you
Well,
for all you've done.
I knew you would do a good job for kids, and that's the important thing for any teacher, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Well,
sir.
Terry, you have a good day, buddy. It's great talking to you.
All right. Same to you.
All right.
Same to you. Always good to talk to you.
Yes, sir. Bye
All
bye.
right. Bye bye.